Let's talk about how I went from being vegan to carnivore. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sylvia and I'm a carnivore coach. As far back as I can remember, I was always into healthy lifestyle, trying to find an ideal diet that would ensure well-being, health, well into the old age without having to take medication. That was actually my stated goal. I think I started talking about it when I was 21. Now, on that path, I made a lot of mistakes before I got to where I am here today. And vegetarian and vegan diets was one of the biggest ones, probably. To be honest, my diet wasn't bad before I went vegetarian. I would say I ate as healthy as it could get, omnivorous diet that didn't include highly processed carbohydrates or sugars. I was never into junk foods. I can't even tell you what Pepsi or Coca-Cola tastes like because I never was really into drinking it. I didn't really like pizza. I didn't eat too much pasta, hardly ever. Actually, I started eating a lot more pasta when I went vegetarian. So when I went vegetarian, I basically switched from relatively healthy omnivorous diet to vegetarian diet. And I did it because I was fascinated with herbs. And my logic was that if herbs are so great, and I grew up around people that were doing herbal remedies, and I was taught to use herbal remedies for myself as well. And then I started getting educated more in traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda. And my logic was, well, if plants are so great to fix a lot of health issues, if you eat more of them, you will be better off. I know it doesn't make sense now, but somehow for that 21-year-old, it made sense. But that was my main rationale for going vegetarian. Saving of the planet or welfare of animals was never my concern. In fact, I thought it was kind of ridiculous. I grew up on a farm/ranch and I interacted with nature intimately, and it just isn't the way vegetarians imagine it. It's basically 1 minute a cat would rest on the branch of a tree listening to the chirping bird, and then 5 minutes later hunting it. That's just the way nature is. It's beautiful but brutal, and it takes life to sustain life. And I had never delusions about it. If I don't eat meat, I will be eating plants, and plants would argue for their life if they had the voice to do so with. In fact, plants do fight for their life by virtue of making of anti-nutrients, proteins that irritate our guts so that we don't eat them. Same thing goes for seeds. You basically cannot digest them and absorb them effectively because they want to be pooped out and grow into the next generation of plants. But I didn't know it then, and I was on the mission to find the proof that because of the herbal remedies work so great, eating more of the plants will make you healthier. Well, I failed at it. My health fell apart, but I guess I had to go through it. So I started my vegetarian journey by giving up of red meat and chicken, and for a while I was eating fish and dairy, probably like 2 years, and I was telling everybody that I was feeling great, but being 21, 22, 23, what do you really know about your health? Your youth bails you out all the time, basically. After that 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, I gave up on fish and stick with eating dairy, and that went on for maybe another 1.5 years. And then finally, I started having first health issues, and I said to myself, I probably haven't done it all the way through, so let's jump into being a vegan. And let me tell you this, that didn't last long. I basically fell apart within 3 months, and it started with not being able to sleep. Because I wasn't able to sleep, my mood started deteriorating, my performance, focus, and then just being able to get through the day just declined. I was barely functioning. I felt like a zombie. And given how quickly my health declined when I went vegan, I think that vegetarian diet, even if you eat dairy and fish, will still deplete you. It will just give you enough to get from one day to the next, but you will have no nutritional reserves. So when I went into the vegan mode, that was just a very quick and unmitigated disaster. I tried to last for another 3 months, but at the 6-month mark, I was so exhausted from not being able to sleep, being all depressed and feeling like a zombie, that I started finding remedies to fix my sleep first. And by then I had all kind of other health issues. Allergies to just about everything. A cold wind will give me massive allergies. My eyes would tear up and I would have red blotches on my face. I had chronic fatigue. I was drinking lots of coffee and my joint issues started popping up, and also I had lots of dental problems. I mean, a lot. So many that I actually make 2 videos about it, just how I ended up with so many root canals, and then eventually I had to remove them. I will link it in the description box, check it out. I tried many different herbal remedies to address my problems with sleep. It was just bad insomnia. 3-4 days at the time, I couldn't get any sleep. And it just wouldn't go away no matter what I did, until I started taking amino acid, 5-hydroxytryptophan and tryptophan, about 200 milligrams, and that basically started reversing it. And then I had this epiphany: wait a second, it takes animal amino acids to reverse my insomnia. I was like, what am I doing? After I was successful addressing insomnia with amino acids, I decided to take an honest look in the mirror and say, you made a massive mistake. Vegetarian and vegan diet will not work for optimal health and longevity. In fact, I really caused myself a lot of health issues. So the whole premise, eating more plants because herbal remedies work so great at fixing all kinds of health issues, doesn't mean that they should become your diet for life. Now, while we are talking about reasons for being vegetarian and vegan, I could never see myself as the part of the vegetarian and then vegan community in the same way I am now a part of the carnivore community, because to be honest with you, and maybe this doesn't sound too nice, but I just didn't like other vegans and vegetarians, and their arguments as to why they were vegan and vegetarians just didn't make any sense to me. Like I said, I grew up on a ranch. I saw my father raising animals, things like people wanting to torture animals for food. It just doesn't work like this. Maybe there's an argument to be made about factory farming, but then again, it's very easy to improve the conditions for these animals, and small farms and ranchers, they treat their animals as good as they can, and there's really no cruelty. I remember my father once was considering to raise bulls, and he actually got one of the bulls to get started on the process. And he kept that bull in the same area where there were pregnant sheep that he was raising as well. Of course, they were separated by railing and fencing, but that bull was super aggressive. And one night, he broke all the fencing and the railing and attacked the pregnant sheep, to the point that these poor sheep went into labor, and we actually heard them screaming in the middle of the night. My father had to get up really quickly, get a neighbor, and together they had to perform emergency C-section to save the baby sheep. Now then my father had to slaughter the bull. The sheep ended up dying. And he was so traumatized from that experience that he said, I never want to have another bull on my ranch. And he just stopped the project of raising bulls. That's how bad that experience for him was. So no, he didn't enjoy torturing of the animal at all. Another thing that prevented me from fully identifying with the vegan community was this very subjective. I want to make sure that you know this. This is a very subjective perception that I noticed with the vegans, not so much with the vegetarians. that their vegan diet was really a form of an eating disorder. And that was really off-putting for me, and I just couldn't really follow any vegans on YouTube in the same way I do follow some carnivores on YouTube now. I would not follow a single one of them because I was watching an eating disorder and I kind of knew it. And yeah, now we have in the carnivore community a lot of former vegans, and many of them will admit that their vegan diet was really an eating disorder. So I started incorporating eggs, dairy, and some sausages. I am Polish after all, so sausages made a lot of sense to me. And then shortly after, I met my now husband, who has been eating lots of steaks since day one I met him. So I started eating steaks with him as we were dating, and thank God for that, because I started feeling better so much quicker. And most of my problems started improving dramatically. My allergies improved, my chronic fatigue started going away, my teeth stopped rotting, I was able to sleep again without any remedies. And then the paleo diet started becoming popular, so that I was following that diet for a while, but the obsession with nuts and seeds I just couldn't understand, so I switched to the ketogenic diet. And that, yet again, improved my health by a lot. But now in hindsight, I can tell you that I ate way too much dairy and the nut flours. And all my symptoms improved except for rheumatoid arthritis, which actually persisted and got worse. And ultimately, rheumatoid arthritis was what pushed me to find carnivore diet. And the version of the carnivore diet that I adapted was paleo-ketogenic diet, and I mentioned it in my other videos because I found them first. I saw Dr. Sylvia Clemens making a presentation in one of the keto or low-carb conferences. It made lots of sense to me, and so I researched Paleo Medicina. I ordered their gut permeability test, got the diet, and just jumped into it and started feeling major improvements just in 10 days of being on the paleo-ketogenic diet. So now that I tried just about every diet that is out there, I can tell you that there is no such a thing as a personal preference or choice of what you are eating. We are obligate at the very minimum omnivores with strong emphasis on animal foods consumption. There's no ifs or buts about it. If you try to deny it, you will end up paying with your health. And there's one last thing I want to mention about my vegetarian vegan journey to carnivore. I was always into researching and finding the science to prove my point that more plants means more health. As I mentioned, I failed at it, but in the process, I learned that the coolest and the most educated doctors with the most objective outlook on human nutrition are the ones in the sphere of low carb, ketogenic, and carnivore diets, hands down. Alright, this will do it for this week's video. If you are carnivore or low carb and transitioned from being vegan or vegetarian, let me know in the comments below what led you to why you are now carnivore. If you haven't yet, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!